Hey, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Guess where we are?
We are in Studio C for the Readathon. Yes.
Yeah, we did this about a week ago, a little more than a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And last time we talked, I think, about Turtle Boy and his defense team uncovering evidence that the felony witness intimidation charges against him were orchestrated by his former accuser of assault, Lindsay Gaetani. So I'm going to pick up there, but first I'm going to signpost in case people don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, I have a lot to tell you right now.
Okay,
this is just the one story.
Okay,
so listeners who may not know this, Turtle Boy, who is the very controversial character, I'm calling him controversial because of his other political opinions, who has also been reporting very well on this case.
Yeah.
Was charged about a year ago with felony witness intimidation, many counts of it, because he was writing on his blog about the Karen Read case. And prosecutors saw that as felony witness intimidation. That combined with him doing rallies, the other acts of protest, but it was mostly because of his blog. That's what's cited most frequently in the charging documents, okay? Last time we talked, I told you about his former sexual assault allegation and explained that I wasn't planning on tackling it, but I did because evidence has come out that the allegation, which later, by the way, the charges were dropped, the allegation was actually a setup between his accuser, Lindsay Gaetani, Special Prosecutor Ken Mello, who was prosecuting Turtle Boy, and other people. But it was mostly the two of them coordinating with each other.
And you say setup?
Yes.
Because that's loaded, but why do you say setup? Because
there are text messages showing, this is all the extraction report from his discovery, that Lindsay Gaetani and another McAlbert activist named Kate Peter, sort of the head one, literally talked about how to get him arrested. Then Lindsay Gaetani has all of these communications with Ken Mello, with the police, including from when she was with Turtle Boy physically, went in the bathroom and said, I can't talk right now, I'm in the bathroom, and clearly has become an agent of the state.
Right. These are all text messages that have been recovered.
Text messages that have been recovered. Well, the new update on that is that the other person involved, Kate Peter, who tweets as Masshole, Mafia, and used to go by the online name Krusty Panties, which is disgusting. She used to work for Turtle Boy.
KP, because those are her initials.
KP, yes. Yeah, right, she used to work for Turtle Boy a long time ago. He fired her. She hates him.
Gotcha.
She's hated him since before this case. Yeah. All right? She made a mistake. The mistake that she made was that after the Lindsay Gaetani news came out, she went ahead and tweeted some screenshots of her communications with Lindsay Gaetani. This is Kate Peter who did this. And guess what?
What?
Those text messages were not present in the extraction report that the defense got as discovered.
Oh, so the defense got a bunch of evidence that were text messages, and then she tweeted out a text message that wasn't found in that chain.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the other thing that happened was in the extraction report that they...
And that text message was in reference to...
It was in reference to setting him up and stuff afterwards.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
And it was basically her trying to prove that didn't happen by saying, hey, look at our text on this date.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the extraction report had no text on that date.
Yeah. They do a hell of a job with those extraction reports.
Yeah. The other thing that happened was between Lindsay Gaetani and Jen McCabe, there are all these communications where it's one-sided. Lindsay saying, for instance, what did Jen McCabe and everyone think of my meeting yesterday? And then 6 minutes later, oh, really? And then 1 minute later, comment about anything specific? And then later, is Tully going to get mad that I told people that?
Yeah, but you don't see what the other side is saying.
There's no responses. Clearly those have been scrubbed. But this also implicates Brian Tully. Okay, he's also part of this plot. So I know
State Trooper Brian Tully.
State Trooper Brian Tully, who was Michael Proctor's boss, who testified in the Karen Read trial, and is one of the cops that's been going out serving people with arrest warrants for protesting with rubber ducks. All right, it's all fucking ridiculous.
Right, and the thing all stitched together is that we believe, it looks like what the Massachusetts State Police are doing on this whole Turtle Boy thing is that they are trying to connect Turtle Boy to Karen Read in a conspiracy to intimidate witnesses in Karen Read's case. And they are pulling apart every possible thread and have not been able to make this.
Right, and there's more. Big news. So Turtle Boy was arrested about a year ago, a little over a year ago, like a couple days more than a year ago. And they see something like 8 devices from him, 8 electronic devices that they have never returned. Okay. Meanwhile, Jen McCabe gave up her phone. I guess got it back later that day. Whatever. Anyway, so he basically has given up all of his devices. And I told you that he went to court and how Ken Mello is now going to be a witness for his side. We talked about that last time. Ken Mello, the special prosecutor. As it turns out, close to the beginning of the Karen Reed trial, prosecutor Adam Lally, who's prosecuting Karen Reed, filed a motion to try to keep Turtle Boy out of the courtroom. And his motion stated that Turtle Boy was being investigated for more witness intimidation charges connected to Karen Reed. Okay, this was like in late March, early April, something like that, okay? In March, as it turns out, this is the news. It's just come out that the prosecution convened a grand jury to try to indict both Karen Reed and Turtle Boy together for witness intimidation.
Yes.
And that grand jury came back with no bill.
Right.
So no charges filed.
Declined to indict. Okay.
So when
Which is surprising because the bar, as we know, the bar is very low for an indictment. So
yeah. So when Lally was in court saying that they were colluding together with intimidation, he was lying. The investigation was not ongoing. The grand jury had already happened. It was over. It was just sort of something that they put in the motion, which, by the way, the judge didn't grant because Turtle Boy was still in the courtroom. But they just lie. They knew the grand jury didn't indict, and they just lied, saying they were still under investigation for this. So Turtle Boy has come out and written a blog about it. He basically says that, he and Karen Reed had plenty of communication, which he did not disclose because she was a source for some of his stories. So there was something like 189 calls or communications between the two of them, which he didn't deny in any way. But they did things like they looked up her parents' financials to see if they had paid him. They looked up receipts from a Lexus because apparently he bought a Lexus and they thought that the Reeds bought it for him. None of that bore out. None of it. There's no legal connection between Karen Reed and Turtle Boy.
No money is exchanged hands.
Nope.
There's no evidence that she got him to do anything on her behalf.
Nope. He just reached out to her and said, I'd love to talk to you. And then she continued to talk to him about her case.
Yep.
And he would then follow up on things she told him and then report it out. So that was kind of big news because it also showed that the state has just been trying to gin up more charges on Karen Reed that were not successful.
Right.
All right. So that was kind of a big deal. Now, here we are. There's going to be a new trial. It's scheduled now for January. And you might remember that I told you there's a new special prosecutor in the case.
Right.
Hank Brennan.
Okay.
Defense attorney, kind of a hot dog lawyer. He's being paid to a $75,000 cap to do this case, even though he's charging $450 an hour. That's something like 170 hours. That's not nearly enough.
Yeah.
But it's 4 weeks of work. The trial's going to be.
But it goes to trial. Yeah, he definitely will make his money.
Oh yeah,
and actually the state's getting a good deal because exactly. If they were paying him, yeah, the
state has spent something like $200,000 so far trying to prosecute Turtle Boy.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of filings in the prosecution's case came out in the last couple of days. Do you want to hear about them?
Yes.
All right. Hank Brennan and his prosecution team has announced that they have hired a new expert to re-examine the data from Karen's Lexus.
Okay.
Do you remember what happened at the trial around the data around Karen's Lexus?
No. I mean, I think there was. I think this is where we get the fact, or say the claim that the car traveled 27 miles an hour in reverse.
Sorta.
Yeah. And what else did it?
So Nicholas Guarino.
Guarino. Let's remember that name.
That's the name that you might recognize. He's also the person who testified to cell phone extraction reports, which ended up not being right.
Right. He's former law enforcement, but he's here as a civilian expert. Oh, he is? Okay.
Oh, yeah. He's a current state trooper. He's a tech expert who also is the same guy who found 0 communications between Farwell and Sandra Birchmore when it turned out there were actually 32,000 text messages.
Yeah, and an important murder case involving a police officer. Okay, yeah,
lots of overlap.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So Guarino at the first trial said that when he attempted to extract data from Karen Reed's telematics system, that the system was essentially destroyed because the chips inside it were destroyed. And so whatever he found, nothing...
Total the car, what?
Yeah, nothing else could be found after whatever he announced was found. Okay, nothing else could be found. So the state now, because of Hank Brennan, has hired a new expert who's going to reconstruct and test Karen's Lexus's telematic system. So apparently it wasn't destroyed. It can be reconstructed, and there can be a proper data extraction.
Guarino is like Trooper Paul on the crime scene stuff. Yeah, anyway. Yeah.
Guarino, by the way, is also Trooper Kill Me. Remember that?
Oh,
the comment he made
yes,
in
right.
court?
It's Kill Me. Kill Me.
When he was being cross-examined?
Yeah.
So, do you know what a telematic system is?
I mean, not quite. This is a car system that I guess it's the black box of your car.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
The telematic system
For luxury cars, every car has that.
Actually, I think every car has it, but because on luxury cars and cars with these kind of systems, there's so much more to track that it tracks more. So it will track things like the car's speed, when the car idles, the car's fuel use, tire pressure, engine diagnostics, driver behavior, G-forces, signs of a collision, etc. This is very fucking important data.
Yeah, and I think if you go through the computer on your car, like your screen stuff, and it's like car status, if you have that, this is the system that is determining things like tire pressure and all that other stuff. So there is a system there.
Yep.
But I guess the idea is that you can dig deeper and get the raw data to do other things.
Yes.
Okay.
If a collision was detected, if a airbag deployed, it would be able to tell you all of that.
Yeah, I think it ought to.
So I did a little digging, and by the way, I'm going to get back to this in a second. And I just want to tell you something that I found. And I don't know how much this bears into it, but I do have a minor theory.
Okay.
I looked up Karen's car, 22 Lexus SUV that she has, and I looked up all the safety features on the car. You know how our car has a front and rear collision warning and automatic braking system?
Yeah.
Apparently, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I could not find any indication otherwise. Her Lexus had a front warning and collision prevention system.
Active braking, yeah.
Right, but it did not have anything in the rear. It had a backup camera, all that stuff, but all the collision prevention stuff was in the front of the car. This feeds my theory that this is why the state went with a side swipe theory rather than hit, because
if John were dead center mass of the car would have beeped, alerted, or maybe even actively braked to avoid the collision.
Right.
But the theory being that if you were off to the side, the sensors might not have seen that.
Right. But they also say that she backed up, and that was when the collision happened.
Right.
If she had had that system in the back of her car, the car would have automatically braked. She only had that in the front of her car.
Yeah, okay.
So I think this is how the reconstruction.
I'll just say that's probably an optional setting that you can turn on and turn off. But okay,
maybe.
But point taken. Sure.
But I do think whether or not it would have braked going backwards or not, I think this is where the side swipe theory came from. Because the bottom line is they're claiming that the back taillight is broken. That indicates striking something with the back of your car, not a side swipe with the side of your car.
Right.
Anyway, that's my side.
Well, there's also this idea that the broken taillight came from when she's pulling out of the driveway, her own driveway.
No,
John's driveway, and struck a parked vehicle there, because we see what appears her backing up, stopping, and the other car moving like it's been jostled, right? So the system could have picked that up. To explain, definitively that's where that collision occurred. And I will say one thing about the alert backing up, that you have to consider the cone of the sensor, meaning that if the car were parked and he were standing, immediately to the side of that back taillight, the sensor might not see, just very much like you wouldn't see him in your rear view mirror, right? Because it's kind of like a blind spot. You're so close,
right?
But if he's farther back, that cone extends out,
right?
Right. Think of it just like the way a flashlight goes. So the sensor would have detected him a lot easier if you were 20 feet away, or 50 feet away, because it would have been in the line of this in the range, as opposed to a blind spot very close to it. So it should have, if she's bearing down on him in reverse at a high speed, which is what they assert,
and then they assert that he moved and got sideswiped.
And also prosecution, that could be very damning, right? If you're going to say she intentionally hit him. If she's in reverse and she's getting the beep beep beeps, then she's showing some intentionality there, right? So why not try to figure that out instead of
now keep in mind,
all right,
these cameras can get fucked up by bad weather and snow. We know that.
Yeah,
when they're obstructed.
And there was bad weather and a lot of snow. Yeah.
Exactly. But this is the problem with what the prosecution says they're going to do with this new extraction. Okay? Quote, the additional data would assist in identifying the precise locations that the defendant's Lexus traveled from the time that the defendant struck and killed Mr. John O'Keefe until the time the vehicle was seized. So they're not indicating that they're looking at it for the actual accident. They're indicating that they just want to know where she drove after, where she went.
Okay.
Which is nuts, because don't they also want to know whether or not she could have hit him, whether or not the data shows that?
Well, I'm assuming that data would turn up in this thing. Is this seems like this is in addition to? I mean, I think it's probably going to look really bad if they do this and there's different evidence, right? So maybe it's kind of like, let's not check that, even though there's a potential there that something could really make your case or really break your case. Let's leave it a mystery.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think it's probably, as far as an investigative data point, where did she go immediately after leaving the party? Right? If they were able to determine she drove around for an hour in the snow and didn't say that, okay, well now you've got here she is, she's lying about what happened. You've caught her in a lie. Then you can say she was driving around trying to clear her head. But if it just shows no, she just went home like she said she did, that's a whole other thing.
We know she went to John O'Keefe's house. You know how we know that?
Because of the Ring camera.
No. That Ring camera footage is missing.
Oh, that's
her
right.
Her arrival at John's house. But we know that her phone connected with John's Wi-Fi at 12:36 in the morning.
Yeah. Okay.
So we know she went straight there.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
That's just a fact, and that was a state's fact. So that's just a fact.
That's great technology and kind of weird too. Like when you go past somebody's house, and if you've already connected it to your Xfinity or Comcast or Cox Media, they're like, yes, come on to my Wi-Fi. Oh, there you go.
Hello.
You've walked out of my Wi-Fi area, but we recorded it. Yeah.
So the Ring footage from her arrival at his house is missing.
Yeah.
However, the Ring footage from her departing the house the next morning after going there with Carrie and Jen McCabe, that Ring footage exists, and that's the footage where you see her potentially hitting that other car. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So, couple other things. One other filing that the state...
And just one last thing before we move on about the video missing.
Sure.
Which is, as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the questions that the defense had about why is all these clips here except for this one. We point out that Trooper Proctor, the disgraced lead investigator, had access to John's Ring account.
Yes, on his phone.
On Proctor's own phone?
I believe that's how he logged in.
Okay, well, certainly he had access to that. And then, so the implication is that he could have deleted that.
Yes. Or
done something with it, or, come up with some other reason why if we have a Ring camera, a lot of people have Simply Safe or a Ring camera. Why would something be missing in the middle of your evening of recording security stuff? I don't know.
You know what else is missing?
What else is missing?
Footage from the public library that would have proved that Allie McCabe and Colin Albert drove by the library when they said they did.
Because, again, for folks who don't remember the detail, that the public library volunteered that they have security footage from the street.
Yes.
They gave it to the police, and then what happened at trial?
It just wasn't there.
It just wasn't there.
No, this missing footage is missing. The public library told the police they had footage, or the police knew that they went there. The footage of that moment is missing. Okay? No footage.
No footage.
Just like the mysterious...
This is Watergate, yeah.
The mysterious footage from the house across the street, which never existed, which the prosecution lied about. This is a different thing. The other thing that was pointed out by somebody, like an eagle-eyed person who's been really following, a lot of eagle-eyed people have been now dissecting trial stuff, is that at trial, Chris Albert says that Colin arrived home at about 12:10 a.m., and he knows that because he was there. Chris was there. You know what the problem with that is?
No.
There's video showing Chris Albert still at the Waterfall Bar at 12:10 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So stuff like that.
Right.
All over the place.
Right. Because there was an earlier party at the house with younger folks while the older folks were still having drinks
at the waterfall. Before they all drove.
They all decide we're going to have our after party.
Correct.
And this is the party in question. Okay.
Now keep in mind, one thing I always think about is that Chris Albert and his wife.
There's two populations of party goers here, which makes this, very Agatha Christie. Yeah. All right.
Chris Albert and his wife Julie claim that they did not go to 34 Fairview, that they followed the other cars there and then decided not to go in and left. That is in dispute. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Because I do that all the time.
Oh, all the time.
I drive to somebody's house for a party and decide, you know what, I'm not going in.
Well, that's what Karen did.
Oh, okay. Well,
to be fair. But they went
she
there
had a
to
fight.
go.
Yeah, yeah. They went to, you're right.
Brian's brother,
Yeah.
you know, okay. So the final thing that I want to tell you about is that the prosecution also filed a discovery document, basically showing all the stuff they're planning on handing over to the defense. This document is like 3 pages long. I'm going to post a link to it so people can read it. There's a couple interesting items on it that stuck out to me.
Okay.
One of the items is they want all the files related to all the internal investigations into several police officers. All right. And these are, of course, the internal investigations that happened after and during the Karen Reed trial, investigations into Proctor, investigations into Tully, investigations into Yuri Buchanan, who was also Proctor's boss, etc. Okay. They want all of that.
Yeah.
They're also disclosing a copy of the March grand jury minutes. This is the grand jury I told you about earlier. All right. They also want a copy of all Birchmore materials. That's what's being disclosed.
So Birchmore material, meaning the murder case of Sandra Birchmore.
Yes.
And the way this might possibly be related or be relevant at all to the Karen Reed trial is because that many of the same police officers in the Birchmore case have fingerprints in the Reed case.
Yes.
And of course, why the Birchmore case? Because the accused murderer of this woman is a police officer
Yes.
from
Stoughton.
And this murder happened in
Canton.
Yeah, okay.
And the same officers that were the first responders at Birchmore's house and said that it looked like she had committed suicide, one of them was named Lank, they were the same first responders who showed up at the Karen Reed scene. All
Okay,
right?
yeah. Cracker Jack team.
Cracker Jack team.
Yeah.
Another thing that is being disclosed is a copy of a, quote, updated Cellbrite extraction report from Jen McCabe's phone.
Okay, Cellbrite extraction report. All right.
Cellbrite is the company that takes the data, scrapes it out, and they found big discrepancies between Cellbrite reports at the previous trial. Guarino sort of presented one initially, and then it was like, no, this is the real extraction. And the real extraction report shows all the things Jen McCabe deleted. Many text messages that she deleted from the morning after the death. Many text messages and quote butt dials. Remember all those calls that she said were butt dials?
We knew they were deleted, but we didn't know much more about their contents.
Right, but she claims that all those calls were butt dials.
Yeah, right.
She was only forced to answer that question because the defense got their hands on the raw Cellbrite extraction report. So it seems like there might be a quote updated one.
Okay.
I'm guessing that what that means is the state is now disclosing the stuff they didn't disclose to begin with.
And who does that extraction? Is it Guarino?
Guarino.
Or is it a third party?
Cellbrite is the company, but Guarino is in charge of taking the results and analyzing them and making the evidence. Okay?
All right, okay.
So, yeah, it's a lot. Another thing on the list that they're going to disclose is the CV of a bunch of cops and the experts, right? And finally, the thing that sort of stuck out to me is a copy of the serum conversion report. They don't say whether it's Karen's or John O'Keefe's. I'm guessing Karen's. The serum conversion report determines blood alcohol. This is a forensic report, right?
Sure,
it's about serums in blood. I'm curious about this because at trial, the state basically was able to prove that Karen was drunk by showing video of her being allegedly being served a bunch of drinks at these bars, which, by the way, the bars have now denied in their responses to the civil lawsuit against them. But her blood alcohol level was not really brought up at trial.
Right.
So I think that
it is something that had been determined, right?
It had been
because
determined.
I heard a number, wasn't a guess.
It wasn't really like a big thing at trial.
Okay, sure.
Okay, it wasn't part of the closing arguments.
Yeah.
It was just not really.
Right.
So
I mean, one would think because they're saying, I mean, if it's vehicular homicide, alcohol, like the alcohol is supposed to be, if you're doing a real regular prosecution, your theory of the case is that she was drunk and did this.
Notice what she's not charged with?
Drunk driving.
No charge of DUI.
Something in the middle. Okay.
Okay. No one ever
peculiar.
charged her. Very peculiar. Okay.
Maybe this is my thought, and I'm sure maybe there's an attorney that's going to say I'm right or wrong, but I think probably if she's drunk, is that a mitigating factor in premeditation for homicide?
Maybe.
I don't know. Okay. Basically saying if you say she's drunk, then it can't be this kind of murder. I don't know, but okay.
I mean, there's been a ton of stuff happening, like the filings going on, the defense filing at the Supreme Court for Karen Reed's appeal.
Yep.
The state's response to it. All that stuff is interesting, but it's not unexpected.
Yep.
It's all sort of repeating with the other things that they said before. But this stuff is new.
Arguments will be interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah, oral arguments will be interesting in an appeals case.
I do have a question for you. Given that we see that this new special prosecutor seems to be doing some investigation, at least just trying to replace his shitty witnesses. Obviously, they're not bringing Trooper Paul back.
Trooper Paul.
It looks like they don't want to bring Guarino back, Mr. Kill Me.
The defense will bring them back. Yeah, okay.
The new experts are sort of reinvestigating, as is indicated here. But do you think that the special prosecutor, is going to come up with a different conclusion than Lally? What are the chances of that?
If objectively there are different facts, I mean, if what I believe happened, objectively happened in this case, then I think there's a chance. I mean, I don't think he comes in, he doesn't necessarily have a horse in the race, right? I mean, one of the reasons why you could say that, maybe the prosecution was so eager to look past, the logic of, or maybe see the illogic of the state police's theories is because they work in the same office, right? So, I mean, not only we can see their buddies and drinking together and all this other stuff, there's a trust that you have, whether it's, right or not, there's a relationship there. You're willing to go along and believe that. But this guy doesn't have that, right?
Yep.
So he can come in and look at it objectively.
Yes.
So it's very possible. He might come up with a whole new other set of facts. Charges, right? That might even be stronger for the prosecution. One of the things that we say in these cases is that when cops go off and they get it wrong, right? It's not just that they're putting the wrong person in prison or whatever. If their theory of the case is wrong, then all of the things that actually happen, they're missing out on.
Yes.
Right? And so sometimes they're stringing somebody up on a really weird theory of the case, but if they got the actual facts, it'd be a stronger case.
Yes.
Because it's more in line with what actually happened. So, yeah, he could come in with something different, and that would put him in the position about what does he have to do? Is he going to reconsider what charges are filed, what charges to pursue, and which ones to dismiss? I think isn't that one of the reasons why the DA got him involved in the first place, was to have somebody who doesn't have the same
baggage.
Doesn't have the same baggage. The public, is supposed to have a little more faith in, and also it could be somebody that I don't think anybody in that office is eager for this, but if somebody is going to say to dismiss the case and direct a new investigation into the other parties involved, then it's got to be somebody else.
It's got to be somebody new.
It's got to be somebody new. It's not going to be somebody inside that district attorney's office.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So, what are the odds? I don't know. They're better than with the people who've been there.
Oh, people in there are pot committed.
Yeah.
But I also think, and I think I said this before, that hiring this guy, and who's allegedly relooking at things, allegedly doing whatever, is a proactive move by Michael Morrissey to look better to the feds. And I believe the feds are investigating Michael Morrissey. I really do.
This phantom federal investigation that has just been looming over this whole case,
yes,
that has been feeding really interesting and accurate facts to the defense about what has been happening inside the Albert House and within the investigation.
Yes.
We still don't actually know how that started, what it's actually looking at, the breadth of it, and who the actual or original target was. And you're right. It might not be Trooper Proctor.
Or Sandra Birchmore's
right. Case. It could be the district attorney.
Remember, it was the district attorney's office that decided that Sandra Birchmore died by suicide. It was the district attorney's office that decided that Karen Reed hit John O'Keefe. The district attorney's office decides what happened and what to pursue. That's what they have troopers working for them who then investigate to that theory.
Yep.
So finally, one last thing on the disclosure list I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
New video from the Canton Police Department Sallyport. This is where Karen Reed's car was inexplicably brought to instead of to a state police barracks, even though the Canton police were recused from the investigation at that point. It says something like, the unaltered, inverted Sallyport video as it was filmed, parentheses, inverted. So they basically are standing on that that's how it was filmed. We're going to send that to you. They're also going to send some footage from outside the Sally Port. So that was the last thing that sort of stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, those are my updates for you, Kevin.
Wow. Great stuff happening in the Karen Reed case.
Shit keeps happening, man. Shit keeps happening.
Yeah, and it keeps getting intertwined with the Sandra Birchmore murder case.
Yes, and it keeps getting intertwined with the complete abuse of Massachusetts witness intimidation statute. Final thing I want to say for those who might be new and are maybe on the fence about Karen Reed's guilt or not, the FBI hired experts that said unequivocally John O'Keefe was not hit by that car. Unequivocally. They have the data to show it. They have the facts to show it. They said that's not what happened, okay? And they also have his injuries, which they say do not match that.
Yep.
So she did not hit him. She did not. I believe the experts that the feds hired, because the same experts the feds hired in this case, I'm sure that they didn't have any involvement in the Sandra Birchmore case, but this is the quality of the experts that the feds hire versus Trooper Paul, Trooper Guarino. So anyway, that's where we are on it. And Kevin, we will be back to talk about more updates in the Karen Reed case.
Oh, yeah.
All right, talk soon.
Partners in Crime Media.